In today's Western society, many people suffer under the pressure that work and other responsibilities give them. Stress-related disorders are a true silent pandemic currently sweeping through Western society, with almost 50% of employees saying that they at least experience a kind of burnout. This inability of being able to deal with stress led to the introduction of many new practices such as meditation, breath work and mindfulness practice. Although these practices are very efficient, there is also another technique that helped me deal with stress and worry and anxiety. And for that, I'll have to tell you some more about the ancient Greek philosophers named the Stoics. The Stoics were a group of philosophers and thinkers who strived to live in a way consistent to what nature gave them. They described this perfect way of living as virtues. The most fundamental virtues that they believed in were, for instance, wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. And to live according to these virtues would make you able to become something they aspire to be, namely the perfect persona called the Stoic sage. Some famous Stoics were, for instance, Socrates, Epictetus, Seneca, and my personal favorite, Marcus Aurelius. Now, why am I telling you about these ancient group of people who were famous for thinking in a certain kind of way? Many of the ideas the Stoics had are still reflected in some of today's society's way of thinking. For instance, many of the techniques that worked in a therapeutic way that the Stoics used have a lot of similarities with modern-day cognitive behavioral therapy. If you want to learn more about this kind of subject, I would advise you to read How to Think Like a Roman Emperor by Donald Robertson, who describes these techniques and how to deal with anger and fear and desires in a Stoic way, using the example of Marcus Aurelius throughout his book. Now, so some of these principles that the Stoics had were so useful that they could still be used in modern day society. One of the most famous principles that the Stoics used to practice is called the dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control goes something like this. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. As simple as it sounds, it just divides these two into control or no control and asks you this: is it in your control? If yes, change it. If it's not in your control, accept it as it is, because there's nothing you can do about it. We could use this principle in the following way. Imagine a sort of flowchart. This flowchart is a kind of thinking process you have to go through each time you are thinking about something that worries you or something that gives you stress. First of all, is there a problem in your life? If not, you don't have to worry. If so, you go to the next step. Can you do something about it? Is it actually within our control to change the outcome of this problem? If not, don't worry, because there's nothing that you can do, so it has no use to worry about. If there is something that you can do about it, because it is within your control, then act upon it. Do what you can. To continue unnecessary worrying drains your energy and leads to a heavier mental burden. And that is something that the Stoics also already realized, such as Seneca says, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Of course, this sounds very easy. It isn't always that black and white. You can't control it, don't worry about it. So even if it seems like we have found the solution to stop worrying, there are some more steps that you can maybe think about. Because first of all, what are the things that we can control and what are the things we don't? To this question, the Stoics also already thought about it, and they defined it this way. There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. Within our power are opinion, aim, desire, aversion, and, in one word, whatever affairs are our own. Beyond our power are body, property, reputation, office, and, in one word, whatever are not properly our own affairs. So for instance, One major point of worrying with students or teenagers, for instance, is what will other people say about me? What will other people think about me? Well, guess what? That's your reputation. You can't control that. You can't control what people think about you or what people say about you. So don't worry about it. Do your thing. Get on with life. Now again, you might think, what do you mean I can't control other people's opinions about me? If I act in the way they like, their opinion might change about me. Then, okay, of course, I see where you're getting, but there's this point I want to think more about the difference between controlling something and influencing something. You can influence the way people think about you or the way people talk about you, but you can't control it. You can't go into other people's minds and say you have to think that way about me or you have to say that about me. You don't control that. You can influence it by your action, your behavior. But again, according to the dichotomy of control, this is something that lies out of our control, so we should just go with it and just accept it as it is. Another thing that you could say is we can't control our body, right? We can control our health, like the amount of sports that we're doing or the healthy food that we eat. And again, like the previous example, yes, you can influence your health, but you can't control it. If you unfortunately tomorrow get diagnosed with a terminal disease, that is not something that lies in your control. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat healthy or get some sports in because I should just accept the things that are coming my way. Because as I said, we are able to influence these things. But just hold in mind the line between actually controlling something and being able to influence it, and everything that lies beyond that, to just accept that. So with these principles, I hope I've been able to show you that worrying is useless. It doesn't change anything. It drains your energy, it makes you feel bad, and it could eventually lead to physical or mental disorders. And now, of course, I realize that thinking this way is not something that will be like flipping a switch, but it is a technique that can be trained. By repeatedly being conscious about this and using this principle and way of thinking, you could influence the way you're thinking about certain kind of subjects. Whatever the situation, worrying will never be the solution to it. Just think about the amount of time we actually could spare as well if we stop worrying about things that we don't have any control over. Imagine what we can do with that extra amount of time and energy, because time is your most precious resource. It's the only thing that is just going by, and when it's gone, we can't get it back. I hope these principles and techniques will help you as well to help you deal in a better way with your stress. If you want to reread these principles and techniques, this video also has a blog post version of it. I have put the link into the description. That way you can access the flowcharts, again, the thinking process, and find the definitions of the principles. Now, with all this time we might spare of not worrying, our questions could be, what should we do with that amount of time? Well, the only thing I got to say about that is, don't worry about it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll gladly see you again next week for a new video. Bye!